All right, I'm going to keep making the joke until the joke gets old in my own head, and it hasn't happened yet. Joining us right now on the Burns Gambo show, now the most popular Burns on the Burns Gambo show, because he just knocked me right off my perch. New Diamondback pitcher Corbin Burnes joining us live from Chase Field just an hour or so after his introductory press conference. Congratulations, Corbin. You now wear the crown of most popular Burns on the Burns Gambo show. How do you feel about that?
No, thank you. It feels great.
Good. Yeah. We've had other Burns. We had Josh Burns was a GM. We had Eric Burns here before, and Dave was always a little bit more popular than those guys. But I think you're gonna take the cake on this one, my friend. You've got the title.
Even though you've got that extra E in there. We got to talk about that a little bit, but that's fine. You know, whatever. I'm not going to quibble over the details. Congratulations, man. It's really exciting for you. You could just tell how excited you were to sign this and make this happen. From your perspective now, is this like a full circle moment for you where you and your wife are having conversations about how cool it would be for you to be able to pitch for the team that is in the town that you live in? What was that moment like for you when all of this started to come together?
Yeah, definitely for sure. This was kind of always the dream scenario. There's only one team in baseball where you can have spring training in one area, a season in one area, and we can live here in the off season. So it worked out great. It was kind of the dream situation for us, and credit to the Diamondbacks and ownership and the front office for getting the deal done. But, it couldn't have worked out better for us, and we're excited to be a part of the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. I mean, this pitching rotation is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in baseball. I'm fascinated how it all came together. My understanding was you did have a lot of offers on the table. I think you had 3, and another one was coming. Was it you that reached out to Scott Boras and said, hey, just call the Diamondbacks and see if they have any interest? How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, he kind of knew from the get-go that this was kind of the one spot that we were looking at. As far as situation for family goes, this was kind of the one spot that we were kind of hoping for. And as the offseason started, as things started to develop, it kind of looked like it was become more and more of an option. Obviously, around Christmas time, and when we heard that there was some interest, and Ken was aggressive about getting a deal done, and it came together very quickly. So we were grateful that it happened, but like I said, it was kind of the dream scenario that getting to be here with the family every day it couldn't have worked out better.
I loved what you said about being able to take your kid to school instead of doing a FaceTime video, from somewhere else. I mean, that means so much to be able to be around your family on a regular basis. I imagine you probably took a little bit less money to come to Arizona, correct?
In the grand scheme of things, maybe a few bucks, but it wasn't as much as I think probably most people think. Ken was very good about making sure that it was a fair deal and was good for everyone. So obviously there's the small part in the Arizona taxes that also plays a big difference in that. With some of the other offers that we had from high tax states, so that sweetened the deal a little bit more. But I think you can't put a price on being able to be home year round and have that extra time with your family. That's just something that you can't put a price on, especially with how young our kids are.
Corbin Burnes, our guest here on the Burns Gambo show, the newest acquisition of the Diamondbacks rotation. He was introduced at a press conference he heard live here on Arizona Sports. You said something during that press conference, and Gambo and I were both listening to it and kind of taking notes in preparation for having you on. And that's that when you faced this team back in 2023, you noticed they were kind of the first, at least in terms of the style they were playing and what they were doing on the field. Let's dive a little deeper into that. What were your specific takeaways when you faced the Diamondbacks and you kind of noticed the way they were playing baseball a couple of years ago?
Yeah, so just kind of the way that they, I faced them earlier in the year and had some success against them here at Chase. And then when they came it was actually to Milwaukee, they knocked me around a little bit. It was just a different approach that the offense had against me that no one had done yet. And they did it again in the postseason and obviously went on their run. But it was just an offensive team that was wasn't living and dying with the homer. They were putting the ball in play, running the base passes the right way, stealing bases. Kind of more of like the chaotic style of offense that the pitcher doesn't like. A pitcher wants to go out there and punch out as many guys as he can and have as many, as few traffic as he can on the bases. And it just felt like this team was always finding a way to get on base and cause traffic and cause cause chaos and havoc on the base paths. So, we're seeing some more teams go to that now. Their teams are drafting for that speed and that on-base style approach. But to me, the Diamondbacks were kind of the first team to go that route and had that success against me. And obviously they did a pretty good job of it again last year. But just the core of young players that's here kind of fits that mold and that style of baseball. And, I'm excited that I don't have to face them this year.
Yeah, well, we are excited to see you face the Dodgers because, man, we hate the freaking Dodgers here. I don't know if you hated them when you were in Milwaukee, but we really despise the Dodgers. Do you feel like this team can compete with them in the National League West? Yeah,
absolutely. I think when you've got an offense that was one of the best offenses in baseball last year, play elite defense, and then, to be a part of a pitching staff that I think you talk to anyone who's kind of disappointed and know that they underperformed last year, that this could be a really good group of not only starting pitchers, but some young, exciting bullpen arms. They obviously made some acquisitions at the trade deadline last year in Puck and some other guys that are really good. So I think it's a group that, could all come together at the right point this year and make us a very, very tough team. When I was in Milwaukee, it was always the Dodgers that knocked us out of the postseason. So hopefully this is the year that we can knock them out of the postseason and have a good run.
Having been a part of these things over the last few years, how, and I mean this is no disrespect to anybody else on the Diamondback staff, obviously, because there are a lot of good pitchers there, but to have a 1-2 punch like you and Zack Allen, and I'll even go 1-2-3 and throw Merrill Kelly in there as well, obviously, with the work that he's done the last few years. What, in terms of setting yourself up for success over a 162 game season and in the postseason, what does having a 1-2-3 like that at the top of the rotation mean based off of your experience?
Yeah, I mean, just when you have three strong guys at the top, and not to discredit, Eduardo and Brandon and Jordan and whoever, some of the other guys are to fill out the rotation, it's a really good group of arms. And when you can run out a solid 5 or even 6 starters to give you a really good chance of winning every day, it helps ease the ups and downs that come with a season. So, I talked about a little bit of having that internal competition. That's something that I'll talk to these guys about. But if we're continuing to get our job done and trying to one up each other, it makes the season go really quick. And all of a sudden you look back and you have some really good stretches and just better prepares you for the postseason. We're playing in a tough NL West, having a tough schedule. You don't play any easy or bad teams in the postseason. So having a good, strong schedule throughout the course of the year best prepares you for the postseason. And I think this is a team that's primed to have another long run and can for years to come.
4-time All-Star, and you pitch 175 plus innings every year, so you're able to go out there and go deep into the games. I know you take a lot of pride in that. I mean, when we talked about this deal, we said, look, people talked about, okay, your strikeout rate has gone down a little bit in each of the past few years, but it seems like you're just a better pitcher now. You know how to work around the hitters a little bit more, and it's not all about just striking out guys. Would that be true?
Yeah, and I've learned over the years, obviously off of 21 with the Cy Young, I had all the punch outs, 22 on the punch outs, but for me it was I found more value in being able to go deep into games and throw more innings. So for me to do that, it doesn't matter in outs and outs. If I strike the guy out, if I get a ground ball at shortstop, it's the same. So strikeout's going to take at least 3 pitches where I know I can get a ground out on 1 pitch. So it's just being smart, being efficient, having the situations where you can get the strikeout, but going out and striking out on the side is beautiful and glamorous in the second inning of a baseball game, but you might throw 18 to 20 pitches, where if I can go out and do it in 6, it allows me to go that much deeper in the game and allow that bullpen to stay rested and just kind of puts the team in a better spot overall if I'm going deep into games and doing it 30 plus times.
Yeah, this might be a little bit of a reach as to a reason you signed here, but Suarez is as good a third baseman as there is. I mean, his throws are incredible. Perdomo is fantastic defensively. Ketel Marte is terrific. Like, did that factor into your decision at all that you would have a great defense behind you, and even the outfielders are tremendous defensively?
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with Zack about this maybe a year or so ago, a year or 2 ago, where he was talking about, playing here at Chase, and, it's a big field, but when you've got some of the 3 fastest outfielders in the league, like they track everything down. And then also having, the elite infield defense behind you, having Moreno behind the plate, one of the best catchers in the game. It's kind of one of those things that's gotten overlooked, I think, maybe the last couple of years, just because of how good the offense has been. But, defense helps keep the team afloat, and just having that consistent, solid defense behind you can get you through some tough stretches in the season. So definitely not overlooked, and definitely I think an underrated part of this team is just how really good they are defensively.
All right, Corbin, one more for me, and I asked Mike Hazen about this. We had him on about 45 minutes ago. Given that being close to home was so important for you, and obviously you know a lot of Major League Baseball players. You guys are all friends and colleagues and things like that. Do you think that can be a selling point for the organization in general, being that they're the only team that plays in the same city they spring training? Can this be something? Can this be a muscle the Diamondbacks flex in future years to be able to have things like you signing with them happen in the future?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, whenever I'm recruiting guys in future years, that's definitely a point I'll bring up. But I definitely think there's value in knowing that you're going to be in one spot for that long.
Yeah.
Obviously, personally, if you move here, then you're here all year. But just knowing that you could possibly be in one spot for 8.5 months, I think it's something that hasn't been valued, at this point in the short time that this organization has been a franchise. But I think that's something that definitely you could see a growing trend for years to come.
All right, now you've got a year to work on Zack to convince him to stay. Okay.
And I'll do my best.
Okay, good. You know what? You'll be my favorite Burns too if you're able to convince Zack Allen to stay. You'll pass me on my own list if you're able to manage that, Corbin.
Thank you, Corbin.
Thanks for your time. Congratulations on the deal. I'd say welcome home, but you're home, so I'm glad that you are home. Thanks, man.
Yep, awesome. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Corbin Burnes, our guest here on the Burns Gambo Show.
What a great guy.
He's a really nice guy. Yeah, really nice guy. Looking forward to
what a day.
And what a day. Joining us here on the Burns Gambo Show, a man who in part made me the second most popular Burns on the Burns Gambo Show. Mike Hazen, the general manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, joins us here on Arizona Sports, the local sports leader. Thanks for notching me down the depth chart there, Mike. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it.
Yeah, we're happy to do it.
A lot of sincerity on that one, Mike.
We like Dave better than Josh Burns and better than Eric Burns, but definitely not as much as Corbin Burnes. Mike, can we just go to Salt River Fields tomorrow and start spring training? I'm so jacked up about what you guys have done in this offseason and the pitching rotation. I mean, I wish we could just start spring training right now.
Yeah, it's dangerous when you get jacked up. So no, we still have a little ways to go. Well, you got to calm down a little bit before we get to spring training.
God, bring it down, Gambo. Bring it down.
You know, baseball's my sport. That's my favorite. Let's talk about Corbin Burnes. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, you guys have kind of kept your eye on him for a while now, right? There was some talk that Milwaukee back a couple of years ago could trade him in 23. They eventually traded him to the Orioles. Is this someone that you've kind of been watching from afar for a while?
Yeah, for sure. And yes, we were involved in that. Probably not as deep as obviously once, with Baltimore and others getting involved, but we stayed involved in those types of things. You always want to take a crack at getting somebody of this caliber. You're not in our market, as we know, you're not always going to be able to do that in the free agent market year over year. We have taken some shots in those regards, sometimes before I got here and sometimes even with us here. We've been able to do that periodically when we can figure it out. And so we're very lucky and fortunate to have him now in our rotation alongside the other guys that we have, and we feel like it's going to put together a pretty good rotation going into the year.
I know you were a little disappointed in the pitching staff overall. Obviously, you made a change with the pitching coach, but I always like making a strength even stronger. Do you feel like you guys have done that with the addition of Corbin Burnes? You've taken a strength, which is your starting pitching, and made it even stronger?
I think so. And honestly, it's probably more specific to the bullpen or the pitching in general, starting pitching in general, is where we do that. We had the best offense in baseball last year. I think we didn't really feel like it would be possible for us to strengthen that to the point where we could improve upon what we did last year. We know how much pitching drives what we do. We know we have a good defensive team, so we think we can support a good pitching staff. And I feel like making a pitching strength stronger is a good recipe for the regular season, but it's a better one for the playoffs. As we know, we saw a couple of years ago, we swung the bats really well in the playoffs, and that's great. When you go up against the caliber of pitching you do in the playoffs, you can't always guarantee that you're going to hit, and it's going to just be a great run scoring environment, but you can always go out there and pitch. And I think that's part of the important piece to it. And yes, I would agree with you. That's something that we probably did here.
Diamondbacks general manager Mike Hazen, our guest here on the Burns Gambo Show on the day that Corbin Burnes signing was announced. you've obviously been involved in a gazillion transactions as a baseball executive. On the scale of how unique this one was with how it came together, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most unique, would you care to assign a number to how kind of unusual this one was with the way it came down?
Honestly, at this area of the market, it's not that unusual.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay.
They happen in weird ways sometimes, really. Like Ken had said at the press conference, I mean, when we launched in the off season, we weren't necessarily fixated on something like this happening. Sometimes the stars have to align for you. One of them, in this case, being the pitcher really wanted to be here. And I think that's an important driver of this here. And then slowly but surely, figuring out that in fact was legit real interest and that we had a chance if we pursued. And then thankfully, Ken was behind pursuing it. And really from where we're at, it does take Ken saying that this is what I want to do. And it's very important in these types of deals for these types of players that support has to be there, unquestionably.
Yeah.
You can't do it otherwise. It doesn't really fit into sort of how you're going off into the season from a business model standpoint, or for how we're constructing the roster with the payroll and things like that. Sometimes Ken has to come in and be like, I want to do this. And that's great for somebody sitting in my seat.
I know, look, the money always has to be there and it has to start with the money. But given, that you are the only, baseball franchise that plays in the city that it trains in, is this a baked-in advantage that you guys can use more in the future, or again, is this just more of a kind of almost a randomness in terms of this particular guy, this particular situation, just given how many ball players live here in the off season?
Yeah, not random at all. Yes, this is something we've tried to create as an advantage for us. We sell it, we hype it, we talk about all the advantages for a player from a comfort standpoint that they could have especially with a lot of these guys that have young families. It's a unique situation. We're the only team in baseball that trains in the same city. There are other teams that train in the same state and within, couple hours or whatever, but we're the only team that does that. Yeah, we have to use that to our advantage. We haven't been entirely successful doing it. There's other advantages. We try to get the players that we signed to long-term contracts to move here. Our young players, we tell them when they break in and we know they're going to be here for a while, we encourage them to buy a house here because we want our team here. That helps with free agents all across the board. This should be an area that we have that other teams don't. Now, in the free agent world, you have to match the dollars up because players aren't just coming here because it's Arizona, right? We have to be somewhat close, especially with players of this caliber. They're not just signing because it's Arizona. There has to be a match there financially. But yes, that is something that we feel like if we do this right, we can create a competitive advantage for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Mike, when I do the math, I see a lot of starters: Zack and Corbin and Merrill and Fott and Erod and Montgomery and Ryan Nelson. Do you have to trade a starter before spring training?
It's January 15th. Your math is irrelevant to me right now. There's no roster that needs to be constructed as of present. Yes, we have a lot of starting pitchers, which is good. We'll see how it plays out. We have a long way to go between now and the start of the season. We have a long way to go between now and the start of spring training. As excited as you are about spring training,
I am.
I think that, we'll see how it all plays out. We don't ever go through, we were talking about it a half hour ago. I don't think we've ever gone through a spring training with 5 starting pitchers and broken with that same group of starting pitchers. It just doesn't happen in this sport, and we're not the only ones. So I'm not too worried about having more starting pitchers than may fit on a theoretical roster 3 months from now. We'll see where this takes us. Hopefully in the marketplace, if there's something available that will help us build our team, then yeah, that's something we're going to have to look at.
Are you getting a lot of phone calls right now on some of your starters?
We're getting phone calls on our starting pitchers. We got a lot more, once the deal broke. We haven't pursued some of those. So we're still getting calls, but it's probably tamped down a little bit. But we'll see how we go through the rest of the free agent. I mean, some of this is other teams striking out in trades, other teams striking out in free agency, and then they come back to you. Like, these are sort of ongoing conversations that, and there's some cases where we could get back to teams. So we'll see where that takes us.
I remember when you acquired Paul Sewald, you were very relieved to not have to worry so much about who your closer was going to be the next year. Do you feel in some way with getting Corbin Burnes, knowing that Zack Gallen is a free agent after this year, and so is Merrill Kelly, that it's a relief knowing that you have an ace starting pitcher going forward, no matter what happens with those guys?
Everybody looks at each individual year and wants us to put every ounce of energy into that one year, and I do too. I look at the 2025 team, and I want to put every egg in our basket to go and take the best run we can. Our job is, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, is also involves mapping out a strategy over a course of years so that this city can see consistent winners. And so, yes, this deal solves, it's a very rare deal, I think, where it solves two of those issues for us at the same time, that it gives us a better chance to win in 2025. And also, since he's going to be here, gives us some stability within the top of our rotation, regardless of what may happen to other guys. And who knows, we may be able to bring the same rotation back, but I just can't bank on that. Nobody can bank on that. And so having him definitely helps set you up from a strategic standpoint, beyond 2025 as well. So yes, very important.
All right. I know these things never go in order. I know there is no order for this, but is bullpen help roughly next for you on the Mike Hazen to-do list?
Probably. It's hard to pin it down, but probably. It's something we've been focused on for a while. We're going to see where the market is. We have been both in trade and free agency. And it's something that I would like to add to, because having a good pitching staff isn't just about the first 6 or 7 innings you get. Obviously, we need to close those games too. And we have a lot of good relievers, and thankfully. So I think the bullpen's in a good spot. I would like to continue to add to the bullpen, though, yes.
Mike, as always, we appreciate the conversation, especially on the heels of the press conference. Congratulations on the big sign. Thanks for the conversation, as always, man. We appreciate it.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thanks, Mike.
Mike Hazen, the general manager of the Diamondbacks, joining us here on the Burns Gambo Show.
Thanks for watching Burns Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.